So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Platform Futures stream of the IBC 2016 conference today. We've got quite an exciting program that's really all about the aggregation and distribution of content by platforms, hence the name of the stream. We're talking about platforms that come from pay TV operators, from broadcasters, from content aggregators of every shape and form, from the legacy players through to new over-the-top players who are coming in and competing with the existing traditional space in broadcasting. So we have quite a variety of different speakers from across the industry, and we think we're going to raise the relevant topics about what platforms are, and most importantly where they are going and what that means for the traditional broadcasting industry. We kick off the Platform Futures stream on Thursday morning at the conference with a couple of sessions that I think are particularly relevant. We look at the over-the-top, the impact that over-the-top is having on the industry in particular, and look at at what we've called the new broadcasters. We start with Hendrik McDermott, who is responsible for the Hey You over-the-top channel. If we can call it a channel, actually, it's actually delivered as apps to consumers. So we're going to ask Hendrik about the drivers behind creating that channel, creating those applications, and where it's going to go. You know, obviously there's been some experience so far, so we're interested in how it is done and what the future holds for that type of channel. We then move on to talk to Christopher Whiteley of Netflix, and in particular to focus on their partnerships with platforms. As we're talking about platforms, particularly those partnerships with pay TV operators that are now including Netflix as part of a bundle or offering it as an upgrade to their customers. So Christopher is going to cover that strategy for Netflix. We then move on to look at another type of new broadcaster, and we've called this session From Bricks to Clicks, and that's really looking at the traditional physical players in the industry, whether they are retailers or indeed our first speaker, Phil Mordecai of Curzon, and he's responsible for Curzon Home Cinema. We're looking at how those traditional players have moved into the world of over-the-top content distribution, how they are now providing digital premium entertainment services to their customers. So that's, I think, another interesting angle on the industry. On Thursday afternoon, we move into the telecoms world, and we look at, we ask a question, which is, when did telcos become entertaining? And we're looking at their strategies. We've got a range of speakers from the telecoms industry. Those speakers include Peter Kirchhoff from Deutsche Telekom. He's the VP of content there. Nuno Sanchez, who's the Director of Product Development at Vodafone. And also Ralph Jacob, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Verizon. So we're going to be asking them the questions about, how do they avoid commoditization? How do they become a credible player in the world of entertainment? How do they compete? How do they become part of the broadcasting industry in a way, if we can use the word broadcasting for distribution of content rather than in its traditional technical sense. So we're going to have I think a fascinating discussion with that group about what it means to be a telco in the content world, and indeed how they will become entertaining. We then move on to looking at new devices, and in particular we've called the session Pucks and Sticks, and we're talking to Alice Mascher of Sky Deutschland, in particular about their new device strategy. So that's really covering the pucks angle. And then we move on to talk to both Google and Roku about their sticks, and about Chromecast, about how content is being delivered to the television, not necessarily through the mobile device, but the content discovery is being done on the mobile device. So we think that makes a very interesting contrast between the traditional pay TV world, which is obviously moving with the times, delivering smaller form factor devices, more interesting devices, but that's got to compete with the new devices that are coming along from people like Google and Roku. So we hope that will be a good debate and some interesting different perspectives there. Moving on to Friday morning, we're then going to focus on the evolution of the consumer experience, and what is the consumer experience now that we're working in a world of applications. So we've called the session Content Discovery on the Planet of the Apps, and we're going to look at a variety of different approaches to how content is discovered. We're going to talk in particular to Keris Bright, who's the CMO at Virgin Media. We'll be asking her how she has applied her background in consumer packaged goods to the world of premium entertainment content and what that means for Virgin Media and its multi-screen offering. We then move on to a couple of interesting sessions about the economics of content delivery and the relationship of content delivery when people are starting to move back into a live environment where people are perhaps not just focusing on demand content anymore. We're seeing a number of live channels, and we'll have a range of speakers from across the industry to focus on those two slightly different topics, looking at the economics of content delivery. We're going to be delving into whether it makes sense to build your own content delivery network. At what point does it make sense to do that? We'll also be looking at this shift to live channels. So I think quite an interesting range of different topics, and that focus on the shift to live, it then wraps up our Platform Futures stream. So it's all about platforms of many different shapes and sizes, from many different players from across the industry. We're looking really about how content is aggregated and distributed, about the players that are doing that. We're talking to them about their future strategy, and I hope that will be a fascinating stream to this conference. We look forward to seeing you in Amsterdam.